I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Lord God, we have come gathered together because we are concerned about our community. We know that by your grace, we've elected leaders to help our community to grow and to prosper, and we pray that by your grace you would give us wisdom tonight to make decisions that would be pleasing in your sight. We pray in Christ's name. Amen.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm going to waive any reports at this time and move to approval of the minutes. We have March 3rd and March 17th. And those have been circulated to you. Are there any corrections to be noted?
The only one that I see is under old business, which says February reported that he had sold the 3 surplus. Should that be checked?
I'm sorry. Which
Underneath
be?
old business, where it says February reported that he had sold the 3 surplus vehicles. Should that be Jeff?
Yes. Any others? A motion's in order for approval of both sets of minutes.
So moved.
Second. Is there discussion? All in favor, please indicate by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, Dale, you're up first.
Oh, okay.
Solar over Wilmore.
Solar over Wilmore. Well, it was 1 year ago when the city approved the program, so I'm giving a 1-year report. I'm gonna give a short report with a story, and then I'll open it for questions. We only have a few minutes for questions, but maybe there'll be 1 or 2. So, we started out pretty good. In the first 6 months, we raised $20,000. In the second 6 months, we raised $1,000. So what we found out is that the people of the city of Wilmore really didn't know much about the program, even though we had it in the paper. I went to all the festivals, had a booth, sent around flyers. It was in the newsletter almost every month that David Ryle puts out. But, you know, people were not reading it, or they were not responding to it, or they said, well, we'll look at that later. I don't know what they were thinking. So I got a little bit discouraged over the winter, didn't know what to do. So as a Christian and a pastor, I just prayed. I said, Lord, give me a breakthrough. Show me something here, what we need to do. Either we need to move ahead with the program or we need to end it. I'm not one to say we have to have something done if people don't want it, right? So then about a week later, Jillian from the Jesuit Journal called me up, because I told her I wanted to have an interview. So we had an interview over the phone. That was like on a Wednesday. The article came out on Thursday. Friday, I'm sitting in Dr. Peterson's chiropractic parking lot waiting for my appointment, and I get a phone call from a lady who said, I like how the fact that you are being persistent, that we're still working on the program. I have some extra money. I'm going to give you $10,000. Okay, I'll take it. In the meantime, there were 2 or 3 smaller checks, people coming in, because my campaign right now is, we need more people to give small donations, so I raised the number of participants in town, so that when I do write a grant, the grant foundation people say, well, the people in Wilmore are behind you. If I have a small number, they think, well, so what? You understand what I'm saying? So it's almost like if you write a $10 check or a $25, it's like a boat. I want this program to continue. Just a small amount, so we can count you as a number. I don't care how much you want to give, but I hope everybody in this room would consider giving a small amount. Bring it in, give it to Donna or to Lori. Make it out to the city of Wilmore, put solar project on a memo line and just bring it in. Or mail it in, whatever you want to do, but you know, that would be a big help and would say, yeah, we do want to help our city, to help people, because this is a long-term project. This will benefit the city 30 years or more. And they're gonna save 17 to 20% every month on their bill. So, let me ask, does any of the city council members know how much your monthly bill is for electric? How much is your electric bill on the average every month? Does anybody know?
$65.
Say,
65, she said $65.
dollars? No, it's $4,000 every month, average. So we're gonna be saving $600 a month or more, all right? So it's gonna be substantial. And if we can get a grant, if we continue the momentum, we should be able to finish it this year. All right, so, questions? I already asked you a question, you didn't know the answer.
How many more panels do you need? How many more panels do you need?
How many more families do I need?
Panels?
Panels.
How much more money do we?
Oh, well, we're at $31,000, we need 64,000. Are
Okay.
you ready to write the balance? Check. Maybe the city of Wilmore Council would like to consider another donation this year. You gave 8,000 last year. Maybe another 8,000 this year would help us, give us a boost, whatever. I'm just throwing out some challenges now. Do what you want, but the momentum has begun again. One more question?
Sounds like the beginning of the year is the best time to raise money,
Yeah.
both years.
Yeah, that's right, we're good. The article came out last week, I have some copies of the Solar Wilmore article, Jessamine Journal, if you want one.
Bill, thank you for your.
I'll just send them right here, you can get them. Okay?
Awesome.
And your love of this town and caring about a project.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it. Next report is, an update on the sanitary sewer improvement project, GRW engineers. They're over here, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't know where the appropriate standing spot
That's
was.
awesome.
All right, we did bring a little slideshow, so I know some of you may know GRW, but I'll give a little quick history of us, and then we will jump into the sewer for those of you that don't know us.
Does anyone want the lights down a little bit, or is it
Yeah,
glaring?
can everyone see? That's good.
Okay.
Okay. If you wanna move us forward here. So, GRW, we're, an engineering firm out of, Lexington. We were started in the '60s as a water sewer, engineering firm. We've got, 3 offices in, Kentucky, but, we've got 6 offices total. We're about 200 people, strong. So, again, we started out as water, resources firm, but we've grown a little bit over the years. We've got electrical, mechanical, structural, architectural, so we've kind of got almost a full service in-house engineering firm. We're missing geotechnical, which is kind of a specialty, so we don't really play in that field. But we've worked with Wilmore for more than 50 years, so some of you may recognize the name Bob Smallwood. He was my predecessor. He was the one that hired me. I started in 2001. I called him before the meeting and said, Bob, help me out with this. Wilmore, exactly when did we start? And he said, when I started in the '70s, we were already working there. So our firm was founded in '64, so shortly after our founding, we
You did a
were working.
project in '72, was your first project.
Is that right? Okay. Bob said he started, I think he started in '74, and he said that he started, I think the first project maybe that he worked on was when the seminary gave the water plant over.
College, university.
The college gave the water plant over to the city, so, so we've had a long lineage with Wilmore. Again, happy to be here tonight to try to walk through some of them. You saw some of the projects that we had done on there on that previous slide. We've also, this is probably the most recent one, and some people remember the water tanks being repainted. The flag got a really nice article in the paper about the American flag facing the VA. So, and then we've done some stormwater work as well as water work. Again, we've done tanks, treatment plants, water and sewer. So this is just a couple quick slides of what we've done in there. Again, my name is Mike Jacobs. I took over for Bob. I don't know if I could ever fill his shoes, but I'm doing his role now. Nick Howard is also here with me. He's been working with Jeff and the mayor on some of this, and then Alan Bowman, who couldn't be here today, is the actual lead project engineer on the job. But so I'm trying to fill in for him. I'll do my best. So I think you guys have probably talked about this, but there is an issue that you guys have when it rains, and I know it never rains hardly at all anymore. But when we have big rains, your sewer lines get inundated with water, just through cracks in the pipes, connections. People may have downspouts and some pumps which they shouldn't have. But anyway, water gets into the system, it overflows, and it causes the manhole lids to pop and water to come out. And you guys have probably seen some of that down here on Lexington Road. So we were tasked to help with that issue. And we actually started this in 2015. We came out and we started meeting at that time with Dave Carlstead, and we got the project rolling. We had a few things happen between then. COVID knocked us out for a couple years, but the job has been sitting idle for a little while. We actually got a call from Dave at the end of 2024 saying, hey, we want to get this back going again. And that, I think, led to our discussion with Jeff and the mayor and trying to get this project back on its feet. So, but we did actually have a design set when we stopped in 2020. So we had actually came out here and met at that time again to get our hands around it. Obviously, we've got new people in charge now, so we're trying to revisit that, and we thought this would be a good time to discuss it all. So, one of the things that when we came back out that we found out that was issues that they've been working around back in 2015 was this big storm box culvert that you have. You can see it in the top picture up here. It's 5 foot wide, 3.5, 4 foot tall. I have those numbers turned around. Box culvert, but it runs through the city, and you'll see that on a couple maps here in a minute. But that's a challenge for what we have to do. We also have limited right-of-way, which is a lot of times where you try to put the utilities is in the grassy strips between the houses and the road, so that you're not tearing up the road or parking lots or stuff like that. And we really don't have a lot of that room, as you know, going down either Lexington Road or down Main Street. So both those are challenges that we came out here and we were looking at. So if you want to go to the next slide. So what we did was we kind of put together a couple of options. We've kind of met with the city a couple times to look at these, and we've got 3 options that we'll go over here that we've put together. And I know these are hard to see. We'll have another slide here that kind of blows that up a little bit, but Nick, you want to use the pointer and kind of we'll walk through. But basically at Linden, at the corner of Linden and Lexington Road is where your manholes are overflowing routinely when you have a large rain. Yeah, it's on this side over here. I know he's just kind of circling the area, it's the other side. But I think actually that manhole might have popped for the first time in quite a while with this extraordinary rain we've just had. But so what we're doing is, what we're proposing in this option is it's not this green line, it's the light green line that goes through here. So it basically, we would be catching the sewer upstream before it's overflowing now, diverting it into a larger sewer. That sewer would run down Lexington Road. It would cross this orange is that big culvert, that big box culvert we talked about. That's the orange stripe you see going across the screen. It would go down, cross that. We would have to cross it again between the Chinese, I think it's a Chinese restaurant and the Subway. And then it would come back out over through the parking lot and then across in front of the bank on Main Street and then tie back in at Spring Street. That would be the first phase that would get that line further down in a larger sewer down to that point. Hopefully that would eliminate your overflows, that you're seeing there with this larger main. And that's kind of the first option. That's the option that we put together, we thought would work the best from a hydraulic standpoint. So option 2, is very similar to that. This one is color coded. Nick put color coding in here for everyone. So this is actually the blue line that you see here. Same tie-in point, goes through the same first section, but once it gets down past the dollar store, we would actually come over into the parking lot, and then go down in front of the grocery store, the parking lot down beside the bank, back out into Main Street, and again, tying in at Spring Street. And there are challenges with all 3 of these options, so I'm kind of running through them kind of quick, but then we can stop and focus on any individual one. So the third option is actually what the prior engineer and Dave Carlstead had kind of worked on. Same kind of tie-in from Linden Street. We actually, Jeff made a suggestion that we actually bring a line over onto here, so that option was not added in here, but you would actually connect that line over just like on the other 2. And then you would try to stay out of Lexington Road while we're doing this, and go down in that little grassy strip. The issue that we have with, beside the dollar store there, the issue we have with going down through there is there's just not a lot of room there, and we're worried that if we try to dig down through there, we're gonna cause problems with the foundation on that dollar store. So we put together a cost for these here in a minute we'll talk about, but that challenge comes with a price to stay out of the road to try to save that foundation. But once we get past the dollar store, again, we would come back out into the parking lot, come down, we would catch the other sewer, and then this is another one that was a challenging spot, coming across in front of the bank. You see the dog? You're coming across in front of the bank there. We're actually showing that in the sidewalk again. The initial ask was to try to stay out of the road. Try to stay out of the road. We don't want to block traffic. Nobody wants to be dealing with the traffic around the road. This was the option of doing that, and it's very tight. We're actually gonna have to replace some storm sewer in there and put our sewer underneath the storm sewer, and then put the storm sewer back on top of it, which makes it kind of difficult in the future for servicing the line. If Jeff and them have to dig it up or have an issue, then again, they've got that storm sewer now back on top of it. So that was the reason that when we were asked to come back in and revisit this option, we kind of said, well, let's look at some other options, because these are really challenging spots that we're looking at here. So that was the third option that we had proposed. Each of these options now, since we originally started this, are gonna have to go back through the regulatory review folks. The Division of Transportation will have to look at it. If the city elects to go in the road, they'll wanna see that. Even if we're on the side of the road, they're gonna wanna have a permit for that, because it's still within their right-of-way working limits. We'll also have to go back to the Division of Water. They do the hydraulic approval for any kind of water or sewer projects. And then again, depending on where we go, we may have some easements that we'll have to address. If we go through parking lots, obviously we're on private property, and the city would have to get an easement to construct their line there. So this is kind of a little bit of a blur, but before you switch it, Nick, all 3 options are shown on here. Again, the green, the light blue, and the dark blue. Option 1 is the green line that we looked at first. Based off of the increased cost from when we started this project, we've got this estimated at $606,000. Some of the high dollar, some of the cost in that is getting underneath that big storm culvert. You have to do it twice. So there's a little bit of money in there that kind of inflated that a little bit. Option 2, which was the option that came down into the parking lot and across, came down the road into the parking lot. That one's at $556,000. And then option 3, which was the original one that was really into this dollar store, as well as into the storm piles and the sidewalks up here. That one actually turned out to be the most expensive at $636,000 change. So, so again, this is all three options on one screen. I guess if anybody has any questions, I've been talking, but we can certainly stop here, or we can kind of roll on through this and then take questions at the end. Mayor, it's, you know, up to you guys if anyone has anything while we're looking at this. So those are the three options, I guess, then. Funding, we have been working with the city to fund this project. You currently do have funding for the project. Total funding for the job right now is $647,000. That includes engineering, that includes the construction and inspection, and some miscellaneous costs that we have in there that we can get into. But the actual construction cost, which we're comparing to a minute ago, is the $487,000 that you can see there, plus the contingencies. And contingencies is just that, it's the unknown money that we set aside for when things come up that are unforeseen. You know, we get in there and we find a water line, that service line that we gotta relocate, so there's gonna be a cost associated with the contractor moving that out of the way. So we do have that in the initial budget. The way it was set up from 2015, and we haven't updated this since then, that's why there's a little discrepancy here on numbers. But we were about $25,000 of a funding gap. We don't have that set aside, so that would have been money that would have came, you know, through the city, but not through a funding agency. So there's our update on the funding itself. Nick, if you want to go to the next one, this is kind of where we stand today with the three options of construction cost, which is the light green number over here. I mean, that's the committed engineering cost from the funding agency. That's the 487 plus the contingencies. That's where you get the 535, 700. And then we have each option, a cost associated with each option that we put together. And then the funding gap that was from the original numbers, which gives you your total deficit for each project that you have right now. So there's certainly still funding options out there that we can pursue and chase, but this gives you, you know, option one. Right now, there's a $95,000 deficit in our budget. We're at about $30,000 for option two and about $126 for option three. So that was real fast, real quick. I'm sure that there's some questions, and we can go back to any of these slides. We can look at any of the alignments and open it up to questions.
So I'm just trying to follow the numbers there. The funding gap, the 25, like on line option one, the funding gap, you're saying that's the gap that was in 2015?
Yes, so we have, we don't have it, we didn't actually bring the total project cost was originally $647,000. That was what the KIA is who we were dealing with, and it's Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. You guys have used them in the past for money, but that's their total project plus what they've committed fundings to. So that's the $25,000 funding gap that they have in there.
So who has, I guess.
So that would be at the time. And there's another screen on this, and we can pull it up on that if you wanted to look at it. But on KIA's website, they would basically consider that a local funding contribute.
So if you go back to the slide we were on with the, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't the actual gap be the 25,000 plus the 95? I mean, that's what somebody has to come up with somewhere. So
Nick, help me out with the math. If you do the 606, 399 minus
So this is,
537.
like Mark said, KIA is gonna supply this money. And this right here is how much we think option one's gonna cost. And among all the options, there's this $25,000 funding gap. So total project cost that has all our engineering fees, construction, inspection, miscellaneous, and then what they committed was $25,000 less. So that's why all the options have this funding gap of $25,000, plus the difference between what they committed for construction here and what we think it's gonna cost today. If that makes sense.
Cause the difference there is about 65,000, I'm just doing it in my head, it was
Mhm.
70,000, I guess. Add the 25 that was already there, and I'm at 95,000.
The dashes are a little, a little confusing. This is a negative, this is a negative. Technically, that should be a negative. We're saying we have this much in the bank, 553,700. We're gonna spend this much. We're already gapped this much from that 553,700 has already got this negative in it that we have to add in to get the total to 95,900.
So all three of the projects start with a minus 25.
That all three projects start in the whole 25,000.
Well, the next one is $30,000 difference, so why do you have 29 instead of 55?
Good question. Nick, do you,
Yeah.
haven't done the math there? Go ahead.
So you're asking why these numbers are different, correct?
So the second one.
He's saying that the difference here is $30,000, and it should have been 25 plus
You're
30.
telling me that the difference is only 4,000.
No, I think you're right. I think there's a mistake in the math there.
Oh my gosh.
535,700. Minus 56.
I think we already signed a contract for option 2. Oh, that's what I'm.
So he did not add, this one does not have the 29, that's the difference, is the 39,000, he didn't add the 25,000.
Right.
And I don't know if this one, if you do the math on that one, does that one work
It's
out?
right,
That's
it's
100,000.
right.
That one's
I
right.
think just the middle one.
I think this one. I
Add
think this one
25
is-
to the middle.
We'll take what's behind door number 2.
Door number 2. But yes, you're right, this should be about 60.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And again, what's the difference in option 1 and option 2 as far as the direction the water line or the sewer line goes? They go in the same direction
Yeah, so.
through the parking lots.
Go to,
Both
go
of
to
them.
this one. Oh, it's catching up, hold on a second, give us a second, it's gonna bring it up here. The difference, option 1 goes all the way down past the Chinese restaurant. Okay, yeah, now you can zoom in on these. So option 1 is the green line, everything is the same until you get, everything is the same until you get to this blue line where it comes off in Main Street. Everything starts out, in Lexington Avenue, apologize, Lexington Avenue up to past the dollar store, but before you get to the Mexican, or the Chinese restaurant. And then it comes into the parking lot. Option 2 goes this way, option 1 goes all the way up and comes around. So it keeps you out of the parking lot in front of the grocery store, in front of the dollar store, and kind of the backside of the Chinese restaurant. Option 2 would put you in that parking lot for all of that construction. So that's the difference. Everything else from this point on is the same. It's basically just from.
So do you call option 3 go down Lexington Avenue?
Option 3 also goes through the parking lot. This was what was originally given to us when we did the option, when we took the project over from our previous engineering and with Dave. It actually comes down, goes through that same parking lot. So option 2 and 3 both go through the parking lot. Option 1 does not, but it has to go under that storm box culvert and around, so that's why.
That's why it costs more?
That's why it costs a little bit more. Option 2 costs a little bit, option 3 costs a little bit more than option 2 because of the storm sewer and because of what we would have to do to protect the dollar store. So option 2 is by far the cheapest because we're avoiding the dollar store issue, we're avoiding the storm sewer issue on Main Street, but we're still coming through the parking lot. And because of, and I can't point at it, Nick, here, but because the orange line, which is that big box culvert, we don't actually have to cross it, that actually saves you a little bit of money. That's the reason that it's not almost the same cost as the other ones. It saves you those crossings completely.
So would option 2 and 3 then completely close the parking lot?
There would be, I mean, you guys have seen construction, as clean as we can make it, but there would be equipment in there that you would have to potentially shut it down, at least maybe in sections as you came across there. So my thought would be is if you know, when you were coming through here, you would have this entrance closed, people would have to go around and come back in to get to the dollar store or to that. Obviously, this is the worst spot because you're right in front of the grocery store, right behind the parking for the Chinese restaurant. Once you get up here, then you could open this back up. You wouldn't have to close everything completely down all the way across it, but you would have to do sections to let people.
And what's the timetable for that? Just the parking lot part?
Just the parking lot part. If you really, again, that contingency money in there, that we don't have to use any of that, and things roll through there. I mean, I would say in something like this, that these people are probably not gonna get more than, I wouldn't say between 50 and 100 foot a day. So each day everything that comes out of the hole has to be put in a dump truck and hauled away. It can't be stockpiled up, obviously. And so that's gonna cost them a little bit of time on there. So I would say you'd probably be safe at somewhere between 50 and 100 foot a day. Nick, I don't remember the distance across there.
780 feet, give or take 3
So
miles.
a couple of weeks to get through it.
So is there money to re-blacktop the whole thing, or is it just the patch?
Right now, I think we just have patch going back in this. Now, we haven't confirmed because we were waiting to see what you guys selected to do here, but we'll have to reach back out to the DOT if we go in the road, if they're gonna let us go back in with the patch, or if they're gonna want a full lane, and maybe, you know, that might also sway some of that. But right now, we have patches on everything consistent between the two of them. So if we patch on, if we have to do full width pavement on either of them, then that would obviously play into the cost.
We can add money to it to ask them to work on this 24 hours a day, is that correct? That's the conversation that we had before.
I was not aware of that, but you can certainly ask them to do more work, that it'll cost more.
I understand that, but it means keeping our businesses open.
I don't
And this is
disagree.
a stupid question, so you can say that's a stupid question, I'm not gonna answer it.
Yeah,
Cause I'm assuming what you're trying to do is divert the water that's coming down Linden there. There's no way to divert it up higher.
I don't think it's the water that's coming down Linden that's the problem, it's the water that's coming down Lexington Avenue.
Okay.
Linden actually, I can't remember the cross street, Jeff, that Linden actually stops. This line coming from Linden is actually just got.
Yeah, it stops at Walnut.
It's just one
yeah.
block long. now.
It's just got one block on it, yeah, so,
Okay.
so it's not the water coming that way, it's the water coming.
And you're actually gonna stop the water from coming down West Linden also, right? And that last manhole you were changing?
Well, the water actually flows from Lexington Road and then it turns on West Linden and goes around. It's actually, let me get the pointer here, it actually comes, well, I'll just try to point where you guys can see it here, but, it comes down here, hits this manhole, and goes that way. I think what Jeff's referring to is because of how flat it is here and how much water's coming down both here and here, it winds up backing up and blowing out in this manhole here. So what we're trying to do with both these options is pull this water. This is the third one. Let me go back to one of these other options. But what we're actually trying to do is catch that flow, bring it over here into this larger sewer main and bring it down around this way. So this is the option 2 that we were referring to earlier. But all the options would have this same kind of adjustment to it based off of what we've talked with Jeff.
Are we talking about sanitary sewer or storm sewer?
Sanitary sewer.
Okay, so that's why we can't put it in the big culvert.
Yes, it's sanitary sewer, yeah. But we did have a section back on option 3, where we would have to replace some of that storm sewer
Right.
up in front of the bank because of the proximity that we had to work in to try to stay out of the road. Cause that was I think that was maybe the first ask was, you know, try to do this without getting and blocking our road, cause we want people to be able to get to and from wherever they're going easily. But you would certainly have, you know, again, you would have to have traffic control for really any of these 3 options along, whether it's along Lexington Road or Main Street. Timing wise, depending on which one you chose, how long that would be, but.
It's been my experience that when if we close the state road, that any detour has to also be on the state road, is that correct?
We would, again, I think the initial ask from the DOT would be to not necessarily close the road, but to put in rolling red lights. I know you guys have seen some of those where
Sure.
they just have a red light on either end, and basically it's unmanned, it's, you know, automatic, and it's just set on timers to give you one lane to keep it going, but it would cause a little backup. Obviously, a detour would be a nice out for that, to avoid that. It would also make the construction go a little quicker, but that's something that we would have to talk with the DOT about if we do move into.
Because there's no easy detour to take people to High Bridge, it stays on the state road.
That stays on state road, yeah. And you have it both on, both Main Street
Exactly.
and Lexington Road, so.
Middle State Roads.
The water that made that lid of the manhole pop and dance on the water fountain,
Mhm.
is that surface water, storm water, or sewer?
Unfortunately, it's a combination of both.
Oh,
It's
okay.
supposed to be sanitary sewer only. It's supposed to be what is coming out of people's houses. But every sewer system in Kentucky, at least, is got its inflow and infiltration. There's water that gets into that sewer when you have these big rains, whether it's, coming through where a connection, you know, just like your water mains, you see them break in the wintertime when things shift. You don't really see that on sewer lines, because when they shift on the sewer line, when it freezes and thaws and things move and the earth moves, it cracks, but you don't see that on sewer because it's gravity and it doesn't shoot out like, you know, like they have to do with water lines. and
Pressure.
With a pressure pipe, right? So when those cracks occur, when it rains and groundwater comes in, then groundwater is trying to find the easiest way out. If it can get into that and take off, that's what it wants to do. So what you see there is usually a combination of rainwater and wastewater. And they're standard, methods that, you know, again, Wilmore is not unique to this problem. Everybody has this issue, and, you know, there's certain things that they have to do. They have to go out and put down lime and stuff to try to take care of the overflow from the sanitary sewer. So they have the process of how they handle that. But every city, all over the place, you know, I live in Lexington. Lexington's under a consent decree, you know, which means the federal government stepped in and said, you will address all these issues. And if you've driven around Lexington, around New Circle Road, you see these huge big tanks all over the place, and on, you know, concrete tanks, and those are holding basins because it's not practical for them to replace enough sewer with big enough sewer to get the flow through there. So they have to catch it, hold it, hopefully for a decent rain, and then put it back into the system. And so, again, we deal with this all the time with people that are trying to improve that, but every year, every winter, everything shifts again, and we're right back to, there's a crack somewhere and this water's getting in.
So our question for the council is, number one, what's option, I guess?
We're to a point, yeah, we would need to make some decisions on how we want to proceed with.
In order to get easements, in order to get funding lined up and
Yeah,
permits and et cetera.
yeah.
So either way, it costs more money than we have. Either way, it has to be done, needs to be done.
Needs to be done.
We kicked this can 10 years. It needs to be fixed. So, the disruption of the businesses has been the primary reason for delaying it all these years. We do think we have an option of Lexington Avenue to not interrupt the businesses, but it is the most expensive, correct?
It is not the most expensive, but it is more expensive. It's the middle option.
Yeah.
The original plan is turning out to be the most expensive.
The original plan is because I don't think that Dave and the people at GRW who did the prior design, I don't think that they had gotten into that part before we wrote up the easements, and I don't think that they got to that point where they're actually looking at the constructability of it. I hate to say a paper design, but I think they had a paper design put on paper. That's the engineering joke, is it looks good on paper, but it can't be built, right? I think this is as far as they got. They were trying to get those easements and how they were gonna do that, and so they laid it out, and I think that there was some analysis that hadn't been done yet to evaluate how are you gonna do that without losing this, foundation for the dollar store, or, when you do this up here in front of the bank, I mean, that's gonna have the bank shut down, the drive-through, the in and out, all that is gonna be shut down while you're in the middle of the bank's driveway,
So the biggest disadvantage to the option that doesn't go through the parking lot is what? What's the biggest disadvantage to that plan?
The biggest disadvantage to that is this orange line that you see going across through here. It's that box culvert. So when they first looked at it, I think the intent was initially to go all the way around and do this. But what we found is, we were gonna have issues getting around that. So you're actually gonna have to when they trench down through there, they're actually gonna have to put a machine in the ground in the state road and drill underneath that box culvert to get underneath it. And so that's why that cost had kind of went up a little bit, because there's no way to do it otherwise. You're gonna be in rock, there's no way to push under it. I would be nervous to try to dig and pull it out and not that foundation crack or break or something underneath that. So the safest thing to do is to drill it's only 5 feet wide, but you're probably gonna look at a 10 or 15 foot long drill, just so that you clear that and you're not damaging that storm sewer structure.
But even with that option, you go through the parking lot.
Even with that option, you cut into the parking lot on this upper end, you definitely reduce how much you're in there, but you're still in the parking lot.
Closer to the bank.
Closer to the bank, yeah, closer to the bank. I think.
Don't disrupt the Chinese restaurant or the dollar store or IGA.
Those three should be, I say, you don't interrupt them. The only issue would be people would have to come around this way instead of the other. But yeah,
There's an
minimal,
interruption anywhere.
minimal disruptions.
Minimal disruption.
And that was kind of where we were at, is like, hey, can we do something to help not be in that parking lot so long? And that was the option that we came up with.
And, sorry, quick question. That one, you're cutting into Main Street. You're not on the sidewalk, right? In front of Solomon's.
Correct. This green, and again, I apologize, we used some of our older stuff here. This dark green with the red X's, that's the old sewer that we're not using. But yes, we would actually come up, we would be on the opposite side of the bank and come down through there, on Main Street down to,
Spring Street, yeah.
Spring Street.
Basically shutting door, Solomon's porch would be affected.
It would be over here. And the reason that we went so far over, and I know it's hard to see from back here, you actually have a water main in the side of the road that's by the bank, so we couldn't just move it off the parking lot not the parking lot, the sidewalk of the bank and put it there because of the water main. We're supposed to keep 10 foot of separation between water and sewer. And so to accommodate that, instead of being in the sidewalk, we couldn't get here because of the water main, so we had to go to the other side of the road.
And the process you anticipate to decide what we're doing is what?
It's a city council decision.
And you're wanting us to do that tonight?
We just need some direction. We've asked them twice to come and look at every option, and they think we have 3 options at this point. And because we have to get permits and we have to get easements, so we need a direction.
And again, that's, yeah.
Can you go back to the slide that has all the costs?
Sir.
Jeff, does that photo you have all the costs?
We have some,
Yeah, he's got some right there.
we have some other things here that we could certainly hand out that show.
And also, Mayor, our 1, 2, 3 changed, so they changed our 1, 2, 3 from our original.
That's why I was
Yeah,
confused.
it's
Okay.
different than this one.
It is one different.
But one is actually where we were leaning
Well, I think,
now.
yeah, I think what we first brought to you guys was chronological order of one here is what we did originally.
Right.
And then I think when we put this together, I think Nick went back and looked at it and said, what we thought was maybe the best option and went down the order that way. But we certainly have, I don't know how many of these we have printed out here,
We
but,
got 10 copies.
but we do have some copies here if anyone.
Each of the councils would get one.
Yeah, yeah.
And would I be out of line to ask Jeff what he would caution us to think about on option number 1 in a public meeting?
I can answer that. What we did.
That's up to him.
We want that answer. We're moving this project.
You say you do want the answer?
We do want answers.
I'm option 1.
And what would you caution us to think about with option 1?
I think option 1 has the least disruption of anything. I know it's pricey, but I think it's the one that keeps us away from everybody. And that's been the main goal the whole time.
Right.
You know, I know you gotta look at the money, but I think that doesn't outweigh killing businesses. And I think we were leaning toward the one that was least disruptive, and that's option 1 that he has tonight listed as option 1.
Are you worried about drilling under that stormwater?
Not the way they do it. I mean, they do it all over the country every day. I mean, anything could go wrong.
It just looks old. I don't know how old that thing is, but it looks old.
Anything could go wrong, but I mean, it happens every day, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the drilling part, I mean, just like the protection of the foundation, it's something that we deal with all the time. I'm not gonna say that things don't happen and something could go wrong, but, you know.
I feel more comfortable drilling under the storm box than I do digging too close to Dollar Store.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did it get under the Chinese restaurant?
The box culvert now, I have no idea. I said the same thing.
Built after the
It was-
culvert.
I said-
So it's been there a long time.
Yeah, I said the same thing. I was like, I looked at it and I said, this can't go under it. And we walked back over and looked at it and you could sit there and eyeball across it and it
Drains
goes
were
right
put
under
in
the corner.
thirties, and that building was built sixties, fifties, sixties, about sixties. So that, the culvert was already there 25 years.
It happens more frequently than you would think. People don't know that it's there and they go ahead and.
Can you splice this square stuff if something happens? The big square one?
I'm sorry?
Can you splice it if something was to happen terrible and wrong with that?
So we could certainly put a casing pipe through there, and that's what they would probably do. You could either, there's two methods that you can do. You can free bore, which is just coring a hole and sliding your pipe through, because what I'm assuming will be in rock, and you can do that and just push your carrier pipe through. A lot of times what we do with bore and jack is they actually use a casing pipe. So you actually have a conduit if you have a problem with that sewer, that you could open it up and pull it out and you don't have to bore it again. You don't have to do anything. That casing pipe is in there for you to pull the sewer back out if you need it.
I just meant with it being so old, there's a way to fix it.
Oh, if the storm sewer
Yes.
were to fail in there, then there's certainly a way that we could, I mean, it would take an engineering group to come in and put that together on what kind of repair we would have to do. At that point, you would have to be dealing with the state too, so you would kind of be at the state's mercy on what they said goes in there. But yes, to answer your question, there's certainly ways to, I mean, technically we could cut through it, tear it out and rebuild it, but we just assume that's gonna be more of a cost, a longer down outage. So we chose to go with more of a trenchless method of boring underneath it. But you could certainly, there's certainly ways to repair it if it were to fail.
So, if you go 100 feet a day, get in front of, Solomon's porch, you're saying that would be knocked out in probably a day, cause that's not 100 feet.
If they're 100 foot a day would be laying pipe. If you've got manholes, and there's gonna be some numbers there's gonna be some things in there. I don't know that you could just say, oh, it's 1,000 feet, so it's, 10 days, 10 days of work. Every time they set a manhole, they've gotta sit down, they've gotta get everything to grade, and they've gotta shoot the grade. 100 foot a day would be, like I said, 50 to 100 foot a day. 100 foot a day would be if everything is perfect, going through smooth. We've got jobs that.
So, but I mean, you wouldn't even be allowed to have, with the street that narrow, you wouldn't even have foot traffic to Solomon's porch for that period of time.
That front door would be, we're in the road still, so you would be able to, gosh, I don't know. I would have to look at it to see exactly how far off that door is from the sidewalk, but I would think that you could keep the sidewalk open, but I think you would have to have, some protection in there. And again, hopefully, the contractor could, if there was an option of trying to do something at night or different times, I mean, we've certainly done that before. We did a job in Ohio that was kind of like putting a sewer line down the middle of, Nicholasville Road in Lexington. It was too many lanes, too many people, too many cars going too fast. And, there's certainly ways that you can do that to make them work at off hours and do other things, but all those things come with a price, and that was not included in this.
I think Solomon's Porch closes at 2, right?
Yeah,
it
it
does.
does too, so.
There's certainly things that we can do in the contractually to limit them on work hours, to say, hey, you can't, if you wanna get everybody to, out at 8 o'clock in the morning, we could certainly limit their hours of when they could start and when they could stop. All that is things that we can work through with the city, so.
Jeff, again, your recommendation?
Number 1.
Number 1.
And the 95,000.
We're gonna get that from the savings from your solid waste collection that we didn't go over this year, but we did last year. That's the gist. I mean, we lost 165,000 in a department last year. We don't have that department. In theory, we're 165,000. In theory.
We certainly can go back to, again, depending upon timing, we can go back to the funding agency. I think Casey, did they come and see you guys, Mayor? I know Casey with the AD district, Bluegrass Area Development District,
No one's talked to me.
was looking at coming to visit you guys. I thought he was.
We did have a visit, but that was for something else.
Okay.
It didn't involve.
Okay, sorry, I got my jobs mixed up there, but he is the one who administers that through the Bluegrass Area Development District. We could certainly go back out to those folks. Again, the only thing I would say is, you have some money committed now. It may take a year to get more money. It may take time to get more money, so that's a decision internal for how you guys would like to see that done.
And I think we do have a surplus.
And wasn't there an expiration date on some of the money?
If you guys have cleaner water money, there is a little bit of an expiration date. I think it's December 2026 is the expiration date for the cleaner water funds, and that's a newer grant program that got started a couple years ago, and it really has spurred a lot of development. It's gotten a lot of contractors doing a lot of work now, and of course, it's good and bad. Now there's a lot of contractors doing work, and now they're not as hungry as they were before, and now the prices are a little bit higher and stuff. But it did fuel the economy, so I think that was what they were trying to do. But again, like I said, these estimates are construction cost estimates. We think that we've got everything covered. There's a lot of things going on in the world right now that are changing.
When would you be able to go to a bid?
So
if we move forward with all of it?
So again, I think we're gonna have to go back to Division of Water. I think we're gonna have to go back to, the Highway Department and get both those permits. They are only good for a certain number of years. All those have expired from what we had done before. I would imagine if we took if we had a direction tonight or in the next week or so, we would probably be another 2 to 3 weeks getting everything together to submit to Division of Water. Then we would be at their mercy. Obviously, there's maybe some political strings that could be tugged on to try to help encourage them to review it. But being a resubmittal, hopefully that would help the review process. But we wouldn't have a good feel for them. Typically, we're looking at 60 to 90 days at a minimum for them to review almost anything right now. Once that's done, then it's ready to go to advertisement and to bids. Again, assuming no easements are needed, so we're not having to approach them. I didn't factor that into any of that. But I would say, you know, if you look at, you know, like I said, say a month, you know, 3 months from now, we would be ready to advertise, and then we would usually advertise for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, take bids, and then we would bring back a recommendation to the council for approval for award of the project.
So 6 months.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Have you looked at this wall on this store?
I'm sorry?
Have you looked at the wall on the old hardware store?
Yes, I think we have some photos. Oh, I'm sorry, of this
Big
one?
cracks in the blocks?
Yeah, so we are away from that a little bit. We would be doing the same kind of thing. We'd be trying to drill some of that.
And
but
we
it's-
owned that building one time, and there's some serious cracks with windows on
Mhm.
it. So,
No, it's a good point. One of the things that we ask the contractor to do on any job before he starts, he has to do a pre-construction survey, and he will go through and he will document all the cracking, everything that he can see, so that when, you know, a property owner comes back and says, oh, I got cracks in my foundation now that weren't there before, we in the city has some recourse to say, well, we have, you know, evidence that shows, yeah, those cracks were there before, or you're right, those weren't there before, and there was a problem created from this.
that's what
Yeah,
you
this-
were, you know, on the outside, it's pretty obvious.
This is certainly.
I don't think they're in this corner, but I think
Yeah.
they're more.
This is certainly not as close as if you tried to stay within the grassy strip by the dollar store. But good point. But again, that is something that we try to address with them at their pre-construction meetings, that they have to document, you know, everything down through there, so.
So I guess you're looking for a motion.
I am, to direct the engineers to begin to move forward with an option.
I would move that we approve option 1.
Okay, we have a second, is there discussion? The proposal is simply to authorize engineers to move forward
With the design
with the
of.
process.
Yeah.
Okay, all in favor, please indicate by aye. Any opposed? Thank you, council. Thank you, GRW.
Well,
Thank you, Mike.
one other thing I wanted to share with, and it may be something, Jeff, you might, well, I don't know if this is for the water plant or the sewer plant, to be honest with you, but we've been cleaning our archives out. This is photos from our 1982 project.
I did that project.
So there you go, you can tell me where it's at, then. I think it's the water plant.
It's a water plant. And,
Don't hold me to it.
Hal Rogers did the dedicatory address.
Okay.
It was his first major project. And I got a really nice letter from him, when I told him about this project and what we were doing. I'm excited to look at this.
Yeah, absolutely. Just construction photos that we took through the process.
Thank you. And that was
Yes.
Bob Smallwood.
It probably
That
was.
his first project.
It probably was
One
Bob.
of his first projects.
It probably was one of Bob's first.
Well, we're excited to look at that.
Okay. Thank you all.
Y'all have any questions, anybody? Thank you. Well done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have, next item is, Assistant Chief Mike Ledford, a proposal to the city council. Chief here tonight.
You all thought that was riveting.
way, you don't slide down.
Just a quick little update for the council with everything going on. The new truck, we've got all the lights and graphics have all been spec'd out on it. I'm waiting on, right now, they're making the graphics for the truck, and they're gonna design them and then send me a sketch of what it's gonna look like. We're waiting on shipment of all the lights to come in before we take the truck up there to get it installed. That way we have less downtime with it and we can get it back quicker. Also, yesterday we did the fire department along with Jessamine County Fire and Nicholasville and Lexington Fire. We removed 24 flood victims, evacuated 24 people by boat out of Dix Drive, along with 16 dogs, 8 cats, and 6 birds. We're all rescued from Dix Drive. Also, everybody will be pleased to know that the City of Wilmore Fire Department has, we now have a boat, so that went well. We got a boat for a really good deal, so now we'll have to go pick it up, but we have a swiftwater rescue boat that we can utilize now for here in town and outside of Jessamine County or wherever we need to go in Jessamine County. So few good things going on at the fire department right now that we're super excited for. So very excited, but I'm gonna turn it over to Chief.
All right, well, I'll try not to take too much time. So a couple weeks ago, I sent the email out about the city adopting the Kentucky Standards of Safety as a local ordinance. So that will essentially adopt a fire code for the city. The city's operated, to my knowledge, since its existence without a locally recognized fire code, which is a ISO requirement as part of their fire prevention survey that they do on the department. So the Standards of Safety is just I'm not even sure if it's a KRS. I believe it's a KRS that was authored basically just to define the roles and responsibility of the State Fire Marshal's Office. It goes on and does a bunch of other stuff, talks about qualifications for fire inspectors and fire alarm inspectors. But the main focus for us is it includes the adoption of NFPA 1, which is the Uniform Fire Code. So local municipalities adopting the Standards of Safety is pretty standard across the state. That's the easiest way for cities to do it. They don't have to author it themselves. They adopt on KRS and move on. It's currently what's in place for the city of Nicholasville as well as Jessamine County. So that would put a standard fire code across all of Jessamine County. With the ISO points, without a locally adopted fire code, there are no ISO points awarded to Wilmore for fire code inspections and enforcement. So if we do adopt it, it's a nationally recognized code, so it's automatically accepted by ISO as a compliant code. And the 3 things we have to have a code adopted locally and accepted as an ordinance. We have to have certified fire inspectors, which we have 3 of on the department at the moment. And then we have to have a structured fire inspection program, which Chief Day and I would handle. We would handle that in-house. That work falls on us. So the code itself is already what's used in the city. So when the State Fire Marshal's Office comes into town and they perform an inspection on something, they use NFPA 1. Our local businesses that have alcohol licenses, part of that process to be able to sell alcohol was a fire inspection. That was all done in accordance to NFPA 1. So the code's already here. It's just not locally recognized by the city, which is what we need for the ISO requirements. And we already enforce NFPA 1 as needed. Over the course of the last month, we've had 2 complaints from citizens in town about fire safety concerns of businesses. So we've worked with that management and hopefully have those addressed for the foreseeable future. But those inspections that Chief Day and I done during that time was an FBA 1. So the code's already here, it's already being used, it's just not recognized by the city, which is causing us to lose points as part of our ISO review. So I've had some conversations, with guys at the department. Mr. Ryle and I had a phone call about it, and there was some common questions that came up. So one of Mr. Ryle's big concerns was, how does that affect older buildings downtown? And can we go in and say, you don't have a sprinkler system, you gotta put a sprinkler system in? Fire code does not do that. There's no authority in the fire code that allows that. That's all handled by building code enforcement. So whatever building code says has to happen is what has to happen. The rule of thumb with fire code is if it was built that way, it stays that way. So if they didn't have to have that system in the 60s or whenever their building was built, they don't have to have it now. Financial impact for building owners, you know, for out issuing deficiency logs to people who are not compliant with fire code. So the typical violations, and I think you all have a copy of it, there's a document from the State Fire Marshal's Office that it's called a master list of code violations. There are thousands of more besides these pages. This is just the most common ones that are found by the State Fire Marshal's Office. These are all pretty inexpensive to fix if they require money at all. Typically what we find is blocked exits, blocked fire extinguishers, smoke detectors not working, exit signs burn out. It's small stuff that doesn't really get the attention it should, but it's stuff that can lead to a big problem, you know, in the event of emergency. And currently we just don't have a local way or a local backing to enforce that. Another question one of our guys at the fire department asked was, what new authority will that give the fire department? And the answer is none. We already have the authority through KRSs that are in place to inspect and enforce fire code within the jurisdiction. This just provides the local adoption for, it helps us structure a little bit better, but it all goes back to ISO requirements and for the department to maintain a positive ISO rating. We do inspections. Who's responsible for that compliance? And it's the building owner, not the business. So if a business is leasing a building downtown, that report goes to the building owner. Now, what takes place between them and the business is between the two of them, but it is ultimately the building owner's responsibility to ensure fire code is being met in their structure. And the last one was what type of buildings can be inspected. So the code does not apply to single or two-family dwellings. We're not gonna be knocking on anybody's house trying to come in and inspect them, you know, for fire safety. The only caveat to that is if you add a third living unit, that becomes an apartment according to the code. The fire code does allow inspection of outdoor areas, so porches, patios, decks, things like that. You can inspect common areas, which are hallways or gathering areas. And if we were to need to go in an apartment, you're typically looking at larger life fires or life safety systems, smoke detectors, sprinklers, to ensure that property owners are maintaining that for their residents. So it's not a super exciting topic. It's much cheaper than the sewer system. Just to put that out there, $0 associated with it, which I know is uncommon for us to bring to you. But it really does, it brings the department and the city more in line with what we're seeing across our county, across the state. Chief Day and I, and primarily Chief Day as the fire chief, has the ultimate responsibility to ensure fire prevention happens within our community. So a local adoption of an ordinance is what we recommend as the next step to become a more ISO compliant department. And we've got guys trained and certified through the Fire Marshal's Office to perform those inspections. There are 2 locations that the state will keep. That's Thompson Hood and Wesley Village. Thompson Hood state-owned and a healthcare facility, and then Wesley Village being a healthcare facility requires state inspections. The State Fire Marshal's Office has already tried to get me for us to take those over as well. I told him no, that he can keep those. We've got enough of our own to deal with. So, but it would give us the authority, well, I guess, encourage the inspections of Asbury and all these, you know, these bigger buildings that have live or large life safety hazards in them. So that's kinda where we're at on it.
That was my question. So the seminary, I know the seminary and the university currently have several inspections a year from the state. Would there be like, now we have like 4, would there be like 8 now with you all, or how's that?
The state fire marshal would quit coming. So there's only 18 fire marshals in the state of Kentucky that cover all 120 counties.
Yeah.
And they have to inspect every state building and every healthcare facility. So anything a local department takes off their plate, they are ecstatic about.
So the state would quit coming and you all would start?
They would, yes, because the college is required to have those inspections, but it's up to the college to ensure they get done. So they can, the state won't come if we're gonna handle it. Now, if we call the state and say, hey, you need to come down for whatever reason, they'll still come. The state fire marshal's office has a list of services we use besides their code enforcement, but they'll come if we want them to.
This comes as new business and requires an ordinance, I believe. So if the council is leaning that direction, I would ask that our attorney prepare an ordinance for first reading at the next meeting. Okay. Directive you want to give to our council? All we need is a nod to prepare an ordinance. I'll give you everything they gave me. We will make it an item of business at the next meeting for first reading.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The only thing we have left is the staff report, Jeff Mulgrew.
I didn't rush Josh, but he told me to make it quick.
Well, those guys have got a free lunch somewhere, they've been on TV today.
Mine's just a quick report of what's going on in my world. Is our Main Street project will start on the 28th of this month, run into approximately mid-September. The Granary Phase 2, which deals mostly with concrete, will also begin on the 28th and run through approximately July the 14th. If you saw any construction on Lowry Lane, we had a real large storm pipe bust and we had it replaced by Gary Hager, so that's back to normal. The big one is our water meters. Approximately 20 years ago, they replaced them all with a radio read system. Nobody knew how long they would last. Now we know how long they would last, about 20 years. So we're losing 50 to 75 a month are dying on us. And what happens with that is the accuracy of the meter quits, therefore you're billing for a lot less than it's getting used. So with that being said, thus far we've replaced 750 out of our 2,200. So based on the age of homes and businesses, we think that maybe when we get up around 1,200 or so, we should start quitting because the other ones are still new. So that's what we're working on mostly. Countywide cleanup was a great success, even with the rain. Everybody got wet, my guys got wet, everybody brought stuff right up till 7 o'clock Saturday night. So it was a great success. And the only other small thing is our seasonal mowing of the 35 properties that we take care of will start this week.
Well done.
Thank you all.
Guys, can you give us an update on water and where we are as far as you know right now?
Yes, I can. Would you like for me to stand at the podium?
I love it when you stand up. James does too.
Sure. Okay, so, with the storm, just a couple little things, real quick. 7.1 inches of rain in less than, in those 4 days period is a little overwhelming. The river level will have gotten to the 3rd highest since they started keeping track at High Bridge, which was around 1913, I think. So we will have, gotten into the record books then. And so what that does is that puts a lot of pressure on our water system. The good news is is that we pump up to a reservoir. So that's why places around us like Nicholasville and then Harrodsburg, and you've heard a whole bunch of other places that have really run into problems. immediately because they draw straight out of the river and they produce. Nicholasville had to shut down completely their plant and leave it down for a while, which they meant they had to buy water from South Elkhorn that came through South Elkhorn Water District, coming from Kentucky America, so into a grid that they did. So the reservoir has bought us some time, so that's why there wasn't any announcement. We were just trying to see what was gonna happen with the water level. And it did get up to the bottom of our intakes. There's an I-beam that the floor is put on. The water was touching the bottom, which puts the electrical mass head underwater. The 3 transformers that were down there, there was up about 1.5 feet up on those. Before that happened, we were able to shut the power off. KU came out and shut the power off for us, so we didn't have any disastrous thing with that. This afternoon, we were able to get by boat Chris Reeves over there to do an inspection, and sorry.
Very good news.
Yes. We're very thankful to God about the fact that it didn't get into the electrical, which would have been a major disaster for us. So not only are we, living on the reservoir for now, and then we have an opportunity now to do something at our river tower. The level's coming down. It looks like probably what we'll end up getting to do is either tomorrow late or on Wednesday, we'll get KU to restore the power to our river pump, and then we'll probably wait till Thursday, let the level come down, where the water's cleaning up a little bit, and then we'll try to restart our pumps. We have about 4 or 5 at the very minimum days in the reservoir at this point, and probably even maybe closer to 7. So what we did is, the mayor and I discussed, we had decided that we needed to inform people. We were getting lots of questions because all the cities were doing this around us. So we put out a water conservation notice, which then is just asking people to conserve, because what that does is it still buys us time with the reservoir. It slows down us taking water out of that, which there's still possibilities that we could restore power. We have a problem, and then there was also that if we start to pump, because of the way the river is, it can pump up less than what we need. So there's still some hurdles we got to get over, but we definitely dodged the big bullet, which is it didn't get in our switch. So we've also contacted our 5 biggest users of water and asked them to do what they can. Use paper plates if they possibly can instead of China, reduce the amount they're washing, or at the Veterans Center, those type of things. So we feel good about the position we're in. I've been breathing better, so that's good. So any questions where we're going with that? So we feel like we got a handle on it, we got a game plan, I got good people, and a lot of support, so.
James and our daily meeting. If you have any questions.
Yes.
Jeff and Dave and I and several others, we have weekly meetings here, and then we also have other meetings. So I just want to shout out to all the leadership of how everybody has been involved. Even yesterday morning, we got a call to open this facility if anybody needed it. I called Vince, and I was on my way in 15 or 20 minutes. He was already here, had the doors open. We only had one call, but as of noon today, the judge assured us that we did not have to keep our facility open, and everybody was taken care of, but everybody was willing to do that, and that was the main thing. So, thank you, thank you, all of you, for all you do. And James has told me repeatedly, don't call me up front. Thank you, sir. Thank you, that's wonderful. Well, that's all that's on the agenda, unless there's something from the floor that needs to be addressed.